Hey, you there. Thank you for watching, and welcome to Forge Lines Forever. Today, I have a 6v6 custom match here on the most amazing Neuroxis map generator. So let's go ahead and introduce our teams and our players, starting off with Team 1 in the northwest, ending with Team 2 in the southeast. Starting off with Team 1's northern player, working our way southward, we have in Ruby Red, Colonel Kenny Lee going as a Submarine. He is a 1900 to his east in Light Oak Tan. Is Foley as a UEF as a 2500, tied for the highest rated player on his team. To his south in Amethyst Purple is Rayla as an Aeon as a 2100. To their southeast we have Drimmer as a UEF as a 2000 rated. He is in Glow in the Dark Green. To his west is Pavor as a UEF as well in Pac-Man Yellow as a 2500 to play with which Foley is tied with for the highest rated player on his team. And in the south here we have in Tropical Ocean Blue Toka as a Submarine as a 1600. So for Team 1 side of the map, they have 3 UEF, 2 Submarines, and 1 Aeon, which means Team 1 lacks Seraphim Tech knowledge. Starting up with Team 2 Southeastern player, working our way northward this time, we have in Regal Purple the Egg Roll going as a UEF as a 1600. To his west we have in Forest Green Delhi as an Aeon as a 2000 rated. In the middle here for Team 2, it is the Wiki going as a UEF. He is a 2700. The highest rated player on Team 2 and in the game overall. And again, he is a UEF. To his northwest, we have in Rust Nuggets as a Submarine. He is a 2000 rated. To his east is Trite as an Aeon in Imperial Gray as a 2200 rated player. And on the northern side here for Team 2, it is Paralore. He is a UEF in Emerald Green as a 2200. So for Team 2 side of the map, they also have 3 UEF, but the difference between Team 1 and Team 2 is Team 2 has 2 Aeon and 1 Submarine versus Team 1, who has 2 Submarines and 1 Aeon, which also means that for the entirety of this game, there are no Seraphim players. Apologies to those who arrived late but love to make grand entrances. You're not represented in this game, but hopefully you enjoy it nonetheless. And for 12 players on the map, let's take a look at how much reclaim they have to scoop up, sitting at a total of not even 3,000 mass. And again, 12 players, that's not even 300 mass per player. So not a lot of mass to scoop up. Most of it is on their main island, a 10 little clump of rocks over there, clumping 1, and then to the south there's a couple of 100 or so down here around that little sandbar. Besides that, there is a decent grouping of mexes here for both teams to grab. Specifically on Team 1 side of the map, we're going to go over 1, 2, 3 quad mex positions in the water, as well as a decent amount of mexes all around the southwestern side, and a couple in the north middle, I guess is what you would call that, and a couple along the northern edge as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and speed this game up just a little bit, see where our players are off to. And as indicated by the map, it is going to be very primarily a naval map. I mean, we're talking about small island for 6 players to cohabitate on, if those players, of course, make it to the end of the game. That is a different story. And there, of course, is a decent amount of mexes in the water to grab. And, of course, without the updates to the game, building stuff underneath the surface of the water would be impossible. So thank you to the devs for making it possible. Not only building mexes underneath the water, but, of course, building those T1 mass storages to, of course, increase the output of said mexes, and hydrocarbons as well, which I only see them in the main bases. So, of course, our players would go for that build order instead of the, the mexes, P-gens kind of build order. We do see that it looks like it's going to be at least a 2v1 in the north here, that being Team 1's Colonel Kenny Lee and Foley versus Team 2's Paralore And in the south, maybe middle-ish, it looks like it's going to be 2v2. Rayla and Drimmer for Team 1 versus the Wiki and Nuggets for Team 2. I want to say the Wheelie, but I know that's an I, so it's the Wiki. It just looks like an L. And in the south, it looks like it's going to be another 2v1 here, that being in favor... so 2v1 in the north, 2v2 in the middle, 2v1 in the south, still in favor of Team 1, that being Pavor and Toka versus Team 2's Delhi. Well, maybe it's going to be a 2v2. We do see that the egg roll is moving into the south. We're probably going to expand some naval factories, over there. The only player who has not left the main base for Team 2 is Trith, going for air, I would assume, given the fact that he's built no facilities. He actually got rid of his facility. And is just going straight for mechs. This looks like he's going for eco, is what he's really doing right now. And on Team 2, I just want to note, we have the egg roll. We have the Wiki, who sounds like Wheaties. We have Deli and Nuggets. I sense a theme with some of these players is food. Luckily, I ate before casting this game, so I am not hungry. But if I did not, I would definitely be hungry after listing 4 names. Pretty much, almost. At least 3, of course, but the 4th one being the Wiki, revolving food. I don't think I've heard of any other name of food for Team 1 or even the other Trith and Paralore for Team 2. But maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a slang term for something on Team 1 that has something to do with food. I guess the closest thing would be Colonel Kenny Lee when I mistake him sometimes for, Colonel Sanders, so that's here nor there. Anyway, Torpedo is coming online here for Team 2's Nuggets in the middle of the map here. Of course, he is the one and only Siren of Team 2, so he's the only player on Team 2 able to actually build that upgrade, while Team 1 has 2 players able to do that, that being both Colonel Kenny Lee in the north and then Toka in the south. We do see, of course, subs going to be very, very popular as the early harassment here. There's a lot of mexes, and T1 frigates do not have the ability to go after structures or units underneath the surface of the water, which means the subs are going to be the main unit, at least for the time being, able to raid not only against the mexes, but of course the comms running around the bottom of this giant lake, channel, whatever the heck you want to call this thing. Archipelago of islands. We do see that, again, units from Team 1 are getting into the mexes here for Team 2, trying to, again, poke and prod at that early expansionary eco. Counter subs, counter everything coming online here for Team 2. Lots of subs running around the map here, and now gifted over to Paralore to defend, since he's right next door to those units. And they're going after Foley's commander. Foley not able to deal with these units, but he's going to send them out to go after the T1 naval facilities, pumping out those subs as we speak. In the middle of the map here, we do see that Nuggets combined with the Wiki are moving in, going after the mexes here. The Nuggets being very, very effective with that torpedo upgrade, going after everything, one-shotting these T1 mexes quite efficiently, and they're going to be able to go after the T1 subs for the time being. He will have to be very careful, though, because as time goes on, T2 sub-hunters / killers will be online, and that will not feel good, especially, I mean, there's no T3 subs, to be fair, because there's no Seraphim players, so players in this game don't have to worry about that, but just has to be very careful against T2 torp bombers as well, and T3. There are Aeons in this game as well. Sensor package coming online here for Rayla. He has range on board, not really going to help him underneath the surface, but the sensor package will definitely help with getting that early intelligence and a lot of vision on the middle of the map here, essentially having a mobile soothsayer that's not as wide and as coveragey, but it's better than nothing. We do see that we get more subs wreaking havoc on both sides of the map here. These groups of subs just ignoring one another, just going straight for eco. Both teams want to take out the other player's eco as fast as possible. No mass means no expansion, which means no units, which means death. Usually in that order. Usually. We do see that in the south, T2 Naval Headquarters is online for the egg roll, and I would expect to see T2 air at some point on Team 2. Yep, there are 2 T2 air factory headquarters online. Team 1 has one of them. I would not be surprised to see another one here shortly, because this is going to be a lot of Navy, lot boat, as some would call it, or at least one of my videos would call it. But Team 2's Nuggets goes down to Pavor's T2 facilities and Coopers. Oh, that's gonna hurt. That was Team 2's only ability to use a Cybern Commander with the torpedo upgrade, which means Team 2 is severely weakened because that, and the Wiki trying to get out of the water. There's a little bit of a sandbar that he can hide, but this is devastating here for Team 2. Team 2 pushed in forward. Team 1 countered and destroyed him. Those Coopers able to pump out a lot of torpedoes, and that has got to hurt. We do see that the Wiki has emerged from the water entirely. The comm of Pavor saying, get back here, and Wiki's like, no, go away. Go away with that. No, go away. We do see those frigates moving in to assist from the deli to cover Wiki's retreat. We even see some subs hanging out waiting for Pavor to move into the water, and those subs now have a target. Of course, those torpedoes are going to be very difficult to actually land because they're going to get blocked by land. But we do see some counter torpedoes, of course, outbound from those Coopers nearby for Pavor. And Pavor is going to continue to just try to stomp after Wiki. If he can't go with his commander, he's going to send some forces in. Resistance forces and reinforcements from Team 1's fully have moved all the way south to try to cut off the Wiki's retreat. We do see those Coopers coming in front of the path, trying to, again, just constantly blitz down that commander. The Wiki is in the red, and there he goes. Team 2 loses another player at 12 minutes due to those Coopers. Great play here by Pavor. That is a delayed double kill, I will say, because it was, first kill was obviously over here, walk all the way down, second kill was over there. And it goes from a 6v6 to a 6v4 very, very quickly in this game. That puts Team 2 at a huge disadvantage with APM, but again, that does give over 2 bases to somebody or somebodies. But at the current moment, Trith has control of both of those bases, so he's on triple base right now. And him focusing on eco and having triple base, that's not great for Team 1. That's a lot of eco. 160 mass income for him alone. Almost, well, right now, roughly about half the eco for Team 2 just generated by one player. We do see that Rayla's on the front line again, assisting with that vision sensor upgrade. And that gives, again, Team 1 a decent idea what Team 2 is up to. Radar installations / sonar installations are going to be very, very important in this game to detect threats before they are a threat in this game. T2 naval tech starting to be expanded about by everybody in the Navy here for Team 1. And Team 2, T2, and T2 is online. So everybody has T2 naval technology. And we do see that, again, we have some T2 gunships running around the map here for Trith, going after what he can. There's really not a whole lot he can do. Again, it's the structures underneath the surface. Nothing's poking out, which means attacks from anything direct fire without a ability to go into the water, that being torpedoes, are ineffective against those structures. Tactical missile has been started here for Drimmer. And those UEF Billy Nukes, hopefully we'll see one in this game. I love to see them. They are very, very flashy when they are used correctly. And they, it just sometimes surprises me that somebody will strap a mini nuke on the back of their giant exploding quantum reactor nuke thing anyways. So I guess you're just putting a nuke on top of a nuke. Yeah, I guess you're just doing that at that point. T3 air is online for Team 2. Team 1 is probably on their way to T3 at some point, I would imagine. Not as of yet, but there is another T2 air facility that is owned by Foley. We see a lot of torpedo bombers running around the map here for Team 2's Trith. And again, that's mainly due to the fact that he has so much eco. He has dropped a little bit. It looks like he might be... yep, there it is. He is power stalling. I was going to say, he hasn't really been raided that much. We haven't seen a lot of raiding in terms of the normal send units across the map and drop them down and go after, because it's not really worth it, because you need torpedoes to really do anything. And that's why those subs were really, really important for just taking out mechs locations. We do see multiple they're not T1s, but multiple quad mechs positions offline. Trith is getting back to another one right now, but 2 of the 3 of them essentially have been knocked out for Team 2. Team 1 still owns all 3 of theirs, so again, that's more mexes for Team 1, less mexes for Team 2. The mass generation is a little bit in favor of Team 1, just barely because of that, but of course, Looks like Triath did fix his... Oh, nope, still hasn't fixed his power issues. So that number is actually a little bit not accurate at the current moment. We do see T2 Salem's running around the map here for Toka on the southern side. And Salem's, with their walking ability, is nice. But in a game like this, where Navy can essentially encapsulate the entire island, cruisers plus battleships will reach anything on that island, so it's really not a huge issue to have walking units, walking naval units. It's nice to have, but it's not necessary, as in other maps where it would be nice to get units from one side of the map to the other across land. And we see some fighting between some Aeon warships and some UEF ones. And there's a lot of chat going down in the, I was going to say in the chat, there's a lot of conversation going down in the chat. I probably will not be focusing on that as much, just because it looks like it is coming and going. And it's mainly just between players on either team, not necessarily an inter-team kind of a conversation. And it says, well, sensor only on land and gun on land. It looks like Rayla's asking if the egg roll would be busted on land. I think maybe they're talking about the sonar sensor, maybe? Because Rayla's commander is down here. Omni sensor. I mean, it has Omni sensors, so it would do both. So I'm interested to see what they're talking about, what they're referencing one way or the other. Anyway, by that we are seeing some lanes start to open up here in terms of congregating forces between both teams. Looks like there's a southern side and a northern side, with essentially the middle just kind of just being there. It just exists. I don't know if the missile I don't think can hit the mechs. It can be launched from the water, but I don't think it can land or go to the bottom of the water. And it is going after that naval facility, just pumping out engineers just to get some more reclaim, just to get, again, some more mass in that bar, in the storages. We do see a group of T2, T1 units over here for Team 1, outbound from Colonel and Drimmer. Lots of shield builds plus some cruisers. Cruisers, of course, some have cruiser missiles. Some of them can attack other naval/ground units. Love to see the intermixing of technology here for both of those players. I would love to see this transferred over to one player for the most part, just so they can micro the land battle, or not land battle, the naval battle a lot better. I'm used to saying land all the time, so apologies if that continues to slip out. But again, Hyrelorn is focusing heavily just on this. You know, this is his main facility as well as Trite's facility. And so he's pumping out as many units as he can as well. But it does look like he is gifting over that technology as well, letting his team at a Paralorn control it while he builds it. Spends his eco, gifts it over, calls it a day. We are seeing some cruisers in the mix as well. They are not UEF cruisers, so they don't have missiles, but I would not be surprised to see some being built here. Those are destroyers. So those are not what I thought they were. Never mind. Anyway, but it would be a good idea to build some cruisers. That way that you can fight back against the other cruisers from Team 1's UEF player of Drimmer. On the southern side, lots of Swift Winds as well as some interceptors. Not really that many ASFs. A couple transport going after the comm of Rayla. Looks like he's going to drop him right there. There are... not going super far, but if there were any sort of ASF in the area, that would have been a dead comm. So I don't really know why they would do that, but it looks like she's trying to drop, he or she, I don't know if it's a she, probably a she. Again, I don't know. Going after the reclaim up here. It looks like, yeah, going after this reclaim right there. I don't know why you're going after that naval facility. But Team 2 is being poked and prodded and forced back here on the southern side, but large groups of torpedo bombers are outbound here, going after all of those Salems. Those Salems don't die as of yet, but there are more and more ASFs and more bombers being built by Trite. And he has one facility pumping out ASFs, one facility just pumping out bombers. Love to see that bifurcation of duties. Essentially, this one's focusing on all of the T3 units. This one's only going to focus on the T2 units. Maybe it would be a good idea to get those T3 Aeon bombers, the Solaces, just to pump out even more torpedo damage. But maybe we'll see that from Team 1, because they have one Aeon, and Team 2 has two. So we'll see if that does coalesce in that matter one way or the other. The comm of Rayla does retreat off the front lines. Does not want to be sniped by those bombers. Don't blame them. There's a lot of them, and that probably could almost one-tap that commander, if not two-tap that commander very, very quickly. Again, it's destroyers versus destroyers here. Lots of T2 units here just fighting one another. Not as many subs online here for Team 2 versus Team 1. We're seeing a little bit more of that sub technology, specifically on the northern side. I saw some running around. Yeah, there's some sub killers in the mix. Not really a lot of sub hunters on Team 2 side of the map. They're going strictly for those destroyers that do have torpedo defense, to be fair, but it's also nice to be able to fight back with your own subs as well. And again, bombers wreaking havoc on those Salems. Would like to see distribution orders used a little bit more so they can spread out the damage and not over damage, I wouldn't say overpower, that's not the word I'm looking for, but it's do more damage than what is necessary. And I know there's a word for it, I just can't think of it off the top of my head. Mercy OP. Mercy is not OP. T3 Naval Headquarters is online, and he is producing the best T3 unit in the naval side of the game. That is the Neptune class battlecruiser, essentially taking some Seraphim technology with those lasers, strapping them to a UEF modified summit. Well, I guess it's more of a destroyer summit, but anyway. And they just rip units apart. Love to see them in this game. They are my favorite naval unit of the game. Of course, most units in the game in terms of T3, T, whatever, what the case may be, are mainly UEF, because I am, of course, a UEF main, and I do love me some of those units. But of course, there are some really good units from other factions as well. But in Navy, I think the UEF overall has the, I don't know, it's hard because they have shields, and they have the battlecruiser, and they have the Atlantis. So, and the Aeon has the Tempest and the missile ship. So it's really hard to pick, but then you have the Seraphim Battleship who has the capability of producing a nuke on board. So there's also that. It's hard. It's hard to make like one faction is the best at this one thing, but obviously that's the whole point of this. Rock, paper, scissors, wizard, whatever nonsense, four-sided thing you want to call it. Torpedo coming online here for Colonel Kenny Lee in the north, and it is 22 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. Let's take a look at the game overall. Team 1 sitting at 830 mass per second. Team 2 sitting at 700. Half of that, of course, is being produced by Trith. Team 1's Drimmer producing about a quarter of that for his team. And again, let me know down in the comments who you think is going to currently win this game. And of course, if you haven't done so already, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so very much for watching this point in the video, and hopefully you enjoy my casting and commenting. Sometimes I get distracted and kind of go off on tangents, so thank you for being patient with me. And again, I really do appreciate all the time and attention you give to this channel and these videos. Thank you so very much. The first T3 unit is online, and as I'm giving my little discussion about the game overall, Team 1's Kenny Lee commits suicide by Control K. Is Billy against the rules? Oh, I don't. Why? What the wiki? Like, why? I don't know why they Control K. Maybe just being too surrounded and want to kill off as many units is probably why Colonel Kenny Lee. He saw the writing on the wall and decided to just go for it. So it's not too bad, but that does drop Team 1 down a player. It's a 5v4. I was going to say no one else died besides the Wiki and Nuggets at the beginning of the game, close to the beginning of the game, and now Kenny Lee follows them in death. What was that? Will they be salty and rage quit if I make Billy? Oh, no. That's going to be interesting if they do complain about that. Tactical Nuke is coming online for the egg roll. It's going to be interesting. We did see that Drimmer has at least his regular tactical missile online. So maybe we'll see counter Billies being fired at one another. That'd be very interesting to cover and watch. But we have a Neptune class online here for Drimmer, and it is being bombarded by bombers. Is that a one pass? It is a one pass kill for all of those Cormorant class torpedo bombers. A lot of them being ripped out of the sky by those AA on board those sirens, calling those sailors to their deaths essentially with their siren calls. And that Billy Nuke is at 50%. Of course, it can be shot down by TMD. It's a little bit more powerful than just a regular tactical missile, but there should be enough TMD on most fleets, especially when you get to the battleship stage, and if you have a lot of cruisers to deal with Billies. It's mainly going to be very useful against going after structures, like some quad mech positions and that sort of thing. Because no, you can build TMD on the water. You just can't build it underneath it. So you can still build TMD on the water. Just again, like I said, not underneath it. So you can do some defense, but it's not impervious to all attacks. We do see that Siren is holding on for dear life, and that Neptune and a couple of bulwark shields protecting the mostly Aeon fleet of Delhi. Love to see him intermix those technologies. I love it when you just get an advantage in the water with, of course, bulwarks being the only type of shield boat in the game. Coupling that with the destroyers built by the Aeon and the Neptune. Ooh, it's just chef's kiss. Mixing in the technology to make it even a better fleet. Another Neptune is online, being gifted over by Triad. He's just like the sugar daddy for all of his teammates, essentially building the facilities and then gifting building the facilities, then building the units, and then gifting them over to his teammates. I don't mean to like make Triad into some I'm not trying to like call him out or anything, but it is a really good strategy to be like, I'm just going to focus on Eco and to fund all of the operations for everybody else. It's a really good strategy. I will point that out. But yeah, not trying to insinuate anything one way or the other. So again, just sort of kind of ignore that comment. Anyway, you do see again this far superior T2 now T3 fleet forcing back the Sirens and the Salems from Team 1. We saw the Siren bit the dust early on, and the Salems are biting it as well. Neptune class online, and the god of the sea Neptune is very unhappy right now. His units named after him are fighting one another. Probably is very annoyed about that. How was Toka mirror against Para? And the Wiki was like, bro, he killed, the Wiki, the guy who died, as well as Nuggets earlier on. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. But in the south, Billy Nukes are outbound from the aggro, going after again the Mexes first. Nice T3 Mexes, says Toka. Yeah, those are not going to last very much longer if that fleet continues to get there. Of course, the Exodus class and all the other T2 destroyers do have torpedoes on board, and these ones have depth charges, which is very nice. But again, this huge amount of T1 naval spam facilities pumping out frigates and subs and the like, trying to again essentially act as bullet sponges for all of this incoming firepower from Team 2. And you can see as Team 2 is gaining huge amounts of territory in the south, they're gaining a decent amount of territory in the north. And at 27 minutes, Navy is not looking good here for Team 1. Team 1 needs to get those T3 battleships online sooner rather than later, because Team 2 already has some of theirs. We see again an Omen online, and the Summit has come up the assembly line for Drimmer in the north. Team 2 is doing a very good job of having air control. I wouldn't say dominance as of yet, but at least air control to again poke and prod at all of the structures, all of the units running around the map, and shields now running it as well, covering those fleets for Foley. The UEF does have an advantage, like I said, in the water with only having the only naval unit that has shield. There are pseudo-naval units or amphibious units that have shield, being the Aeon, the Aeon, and I think the T3 Seraphim are also hover. I'm not 100%, but I would assume that, because most of their units either can hover or they can go underneath the water, like the Omens. Think they're hover? That might be a way to balance it if they don't have hover, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Do see in the west some sub killers after that T2 fleet, and in the east, explosion does happen over here. Another Billy Nuke does land, and luckily with my headphones that I'm using, or my headset, or whatever you want to call it, I only heard that in my right ear, so I could tell it was coming from my right side of the, in the direction. So that's another Billy Nuke. I don't know why it landed so close down here, though. Looks like there was a little bit of a fleet inbound. A couple of dead units. I don't see much of anything else, and I don't think anybody else on Team 1 has the Billy Nuke online. Drimmer only has the tactical missile, and Rayla does have the sensor package, ARAS, and advanced range. We do see that those cormorants are outbound, going for another run on those two Neptune-class battlecruisers, and there go the torps, and they're going to land. And they impact the first Neptune, they impact the second Neptune. Both of those are taken offline. And that's just more mass for the mass god. and everyone else to scoop up into their coffers. Currently sitting at 72,000 mass and climbing with all of those naval units being killed. Naval units take up a lot of mass. They are worth a lot of mass. So that number is going to skyrocket quite significantly as the game goes on. We do see again more and more Neptunes and now Summits online for Team 1's Foley and Pavor, it looks like. Pavor's in the south, excuse me. That would be Drimmer. Drimmer has a couple of Neptunes. I don't see any sub. Nope, there's the Summit right there. Versus primarily an Aeon and UEF fleet for Team 2 versus a primarily UEF fleet in the north. We did see that Colonel Kenny Lee, of course, he was a Cybran, but we don't see a lot of Cybran tech out of Foley's secondary facility up there in the north. Cormorants are outbound here, and they're going after those Neptunes. They do not like those Neptunes. And that one is going to go down. Looks like this one is... No, this one's the main target. Will this one get one tapped? No, but it loses half of its hit points already. That's a lot of hit points. 25,000. That was essentially 13,012 or 13,000 hit points gone in one burst. Of course, those cormorants suffer heavy casualties. That's the only thing with this strategy with using a lot of cormorants or a lot of T2, bombers in general, is that if the opponent has a lot of AA, it's going to be a lot of units dead. Another Billy Nuke lands here for Team 2. No, that's the death of the aggro by Toka. He was assassinated by those Barracudas, so Team 2 loses the Billy Nuke. At least the one, hey, says the aggro. It's like, that's me, probably. And those cormorants are outbound going after those sub-killers. They do have torp defense, so they're able to shake off a couple of shots, but not too many. And those Neptunes do have torpedo defense, but they do not have just anti-everything defense. And those Barracudas are going to start being picked apart by those bombers from the air. I guess there's only bombers from the air. Yeah, from those air units, I guess. And it is now a 6v3 game at 31 minutes. Is anybody deciding to build like any sort of experimentals or any sort of thing like that? I mean, there are Aeons in this game and UEF. So we should be seeing possibly a Tempest. Oh, okay, yeah. As I literally speak about it, Rayla is building one as we speak, just a little bit. Not a lot of assistance going on, but it looks like more and more is going to be added to it to build it even faster. But I don't see any air experimentals as of yet. Team 2 would probably be the only one that goes for that because they have a lot of air forces to really benefit from that. They don't have any Seraphim, which means there's no Awasa bombers. You're going to have a Bug or a Donut. I think in this case I'd go for a Donut. I feel like that's a little bit better than going after the Bug just because it's a little bit more suited to dealing with naval units because of their depth charges and all of that. And we're seeing a resurgence for Team 1 in both the north and the south. We saw that Team 2 push them all the way up to these Mechs up here in front of the main facilities for Pavor, and even in the north they got all the way probably right about here, but Team 1 is now crossed the 50% mark and is continuing on eastward to force back this primarily Team 1 fleet now. Most of those heavier, those stronger units are being wiped out. A group of Omens are down here and a Neptune as well. A couple of them, in fact, being shielded by those, incoming firepower from Team 1. It's not looking good here for Team 2. Those units are getting into facilities, wiping out the spam facilities. There's even more and more up here to the northeast. And I could easily see a scenario where Team 1 goes all the way to the northeast corner and then works their way southward. In terms of mass income, Team 2 is taking the lead once again, 1.4k versus 1.3k. So not a huge disadvantage in terms of the generated eco, especially with all the reclaim on the field. Team 1 sitting at 115,000, Team 2 at 90,000 almost. Total mass on the map now, it was 70,000, now it is 100 and almost 10,000, so it's added 30,000 more and then some. Sub-killers running around the map here for Toka, ripping apart anything that gets close. Of course, there are some engineers that have hover, and these guys are perfectly fine just reclaiming all of those wrecks from the naval battles earlier on. We're seeing a lot more T3 units online here for both Toka and Pavor and Team 2's Delhi. And being donated a bunch of these Neptunes also assists with that. He also has his own Neptunes that he's building, so I guess he's not going to be donated. Trice's going to donate all of them over to him, but at least maybe some of them. And he's also building in Atlantis as we speak, so now we've seen 2 of those naval experimentals. One is going to be done first, that being Tempest from Team 1, and this one will be done shortly here for Team 2's Delhi. Love to see both of those units. I do like them, and I don't really see a lot of people use the Tempest ability to build units out of them. I forget if it forces it to stop moving. Maybe that's probably it. But it also is submersible, just like the Atlantis, so that gun fires when it's up and doesn't when it's down. But it still does decent damage just by its torpedoes alone. Team 1 summits out, overpowering those Omens from Team 2. There's just so many more battleships still online for both Foley and Drimmer. It just is ripping apart all of Team 2's defenses. Airfight did happen at some point. Looks like they tried to go after the Cormorants, got most of them, but took heavy losses in the ASF department because of it. We're seeing ground firing going off, killing off oodles and oodles of those killers. And it's just Tempest v Tempest. Not Tempest v Tempest, sorry. Neptunes v Neptunes here. And we're seeing Pseudo Navy coming online here now for Team 1's Pavor. Looks like he's been gifted over some Aeon tech to again act as meat shields, cannon fodder, that sort of thing, to assist with pushing forward on the southern side. And Aeon does have that advantage in Navy and land where they're like, oh yeah, we can build air units or naval units. Just they're hover and they work. And there are obviously units that every faction can build that can do both. But the Aeon have, I think, the most. And then I think it's followed by Seraphim as well. I just can't remember if the T3 shields for the Seraphim can do hover. I feel like they do, but I just might be mistaken. For some reason, I can't think about it. And there are no Seraphim players, so I can't just go look at a land facility and go check. And more Cormorants still running around the map, but there's a lot of T1AA being built, as well as, of course, some flak cannons to the north, grouping up in large numbers. Those Ascendant class underneath some Asylum shields. Galaxy class battleships also online, and it's just massive amounts of naval warfare. So hopefully you are enjoying all of the coverage. And at this point, I think I'm going to split it up because there's just two main battles happening at this point. And I want to cover both of them in all of their glory. Put that in the middle of the map here. The Tempest is online for Team 1. There it is. There is that Tempest leading that Navy. We do see the Omens in the south. And that Atlantis should be online shortly. Well, it was being built at some point. I can't... Oh, nope. There it is. I see it. I see it. There it is down there. Leading underneath the surface of the water. Neptune's in the mix. Everything in the mix here for Team 2 and Team 1. They're throwing everything they have at one another. The only thing I don't see for Team 2 is they don't really have a lot of Cybran tech. Team 1, of course, we saw the Aeons in the south. The Cybrans in the south. Not really a whole lot for the Cybrans in the north. Team 2 has one Cybran player that should have its facilities still, but looks like they're just focusing on air, not necessarily Navy. And those Galaxies are really good. They're a really good battleship. And we see some T3 broadswords online for Trith. I'm surprised not see some whalers, but in terms of air-to-ground weaponry, the broadswords are the best. And that fleet, again, is slowly moving into Team 2's territory once again. And Team 2 is having a hard time forcing them back. There's so much firepower. Speaking of which, Drimmer sitting at... How many battleships are you sitting at? Sitting at 8 so far. And then, of course, we see Foley, who's also sitting at 6 with the Aeon T4. And that is 14. Let's call it 16, because usually I like to double or even triple the Tempest as a battleship number. And then Team 2 doesn't have that many. 1, looks like 2 right there, 3, 4. So we're talking about 4v14. We do see a Tempest coming online for Trith as well. And also... Fly Toa is what Team 2 is building right now in the form of Paralon. That might be a little too late for that, given the fact that that naval fleet is about to just collapse on top of that Atlantis. It's almost done, though, so I think they bought enough time for it to be built. Apologies, I moved the map over here on the eastern side. Team 2 has now forced back Team 1 to their main T3 facilities in the south. Galaxies going after Omens, and actually, oh, there's a couple of Neptunes, but still no Summits on the southern side, just mainly Neptunes. Team 1 exclusively producing those, of course, Galaxy and the Neptunes as well. Neptunes make the main, essentially now the main stage unit of the game, even though the fact that Team 1, especially northern players, producing heavily just battleships, there are Neptunes still intermixed here for both teams. You might as well, but looks like actually they might have switched over to just those battleships. Oh, no, there's a Neptune still being built by Foley, so they are still building them. I almost was about to say they're only building them, but I would have to say scratch that. Galaxy class getting in here, trying to intermix here and distract. And Team 1's player of, I think that was Pavor or Toka. Possibly Toka goes down to Delhi. Looks like it was a little bit of an AoE kind of effect going down there against that unit right there. T3 Naval Headquarters is now offline for Toka, so Team 1 has now lost Navy in the south. Well, not lost it entirely, but they've significantly lost their production capabilities. And will start to pull away the attention from the north from Drimmer. Drimmer has a facility right next door, and there are summits and omens in range. I guess there's only summits. Sorry, only omens. Yeah. Summits and omens and galaxies, oh my, in the south, in range of that facility. You can see now Team 1 essentially now corralling Team 2's naval production just right around the shoreline here. The Tempest is now online for Trite, as well as that Atlantis that's not dead. So it was finished because it moved, but it did not last for very much. Very, very long. Tempest, again, just oodles and oodles of range on board that battleship, ripping apart anything and everything on this northern side for Team 1. It's gotten 12,000 mass killed, and we have Cormorants online going after those close summits. That summit is now it's dead. It took a second, but it is now dead. Team 2 has pretty much routed Team 1's forces, cut off the reinforcements here, now under the control of Pavor, and now exclusively going northward, cutting off all of the production facilities now for Drimmer. Even if Drimmer does succeed in taking out Team 2's facilities in the north, he'll then have to shift his focus down southward, but Team 2 is already doing that on that southern side. They have the time advantage. They're already there. Team 1 still has to get there and then push. And that's going to take a decent amount of time, and I have just switched over which side is doing what. Again, left side of the screen's on the north side, east side of the screen's on the south side. And that T3 Naval Headquarters is online, same with that Summit class battleship. And Team 2 is ripping apart Team 1 quite significantly in the south. The only main facilities online for Team 1 in terms of T3 are the T3 Naval Headquarters for, I think that's Foley, who has that. Drimmer's facility just got knocked out. And the T2 one also for Foley, that being a Submarine facility. And this is just going to be a slow march of forest green on that shoreline. And we see there are starting to be casualties on the shoreline here for Team 1. Most of the focus is still on the naval units and the facilities. So really the mexes are still fine here. All of that, they're trying to again cut off any sort of reinforcements, any sort of reconstruction of main facilities in the south here for Team 1. And again, I keep doing that where I keep pulling the attention away. It's a force I have. I'm only really mainly used to looking at one screen at the time, not two. So again, apologies for that. I essentially grab one screen, focus on that, and then get distracted and send the other one back. But that slow march south and northward is working out great here for Team 2's Delhi. We do see that Tempest is starting to be a little bit outclassed in terms of amount of firepower raining down on it for Team 1's Tempest. Of course, Team 2's Tempest is now offline, given the fact that they probably went toe-to-toe. And the reinforcements, instead of going westward to support this engagement down here from Delhi, going northward to assist now, it's turned from a west v east battle to a north v south with a little bit of north for Team 2 and a little bit of south for Team 1. Those omens are going after the T3 naval facilities first and then carving out everything else. I'll zoom in a little bit. Actually, I think at this point I can probably just end the split and just focus on the main middle of the map now. Summits and Neptunes and Omens, and the missiles are raining in everywhere. Look at all the missiles raining in from Team 1. That is nuts. That's a lot of missiles. And given the fact that, of course, naval battles are slower, it is very beneficial to have something constantly forcing your opponent's forces to move. Because sometimes you just line up your naval units. Sometimes it happens with land as well. You line them up, you shoot, you move, you shoot. In this case, you know, you have to constantly give them orders to go back and forth. It takes longer to move a ship like this than just a small little Mantis or Mole or whatever else you're fighting with. Even a brick moves faster than these. And it's just cannon shot after cannon shot between both of these teams' main naval forces. The only advantage that Team 2 has in this is that Team 1's main facilities are offline. They're rebuilding as we speak, at least in the north, but Team 2 still has theirs relatively fine. So this is just a war of attrition at this point. How long and how much firepower does Team 2 need to bring to bear to deal with the rest of those forces for Team 1? Team 1's Dreamer builds an experimental. There is currently over 300,000 mass on the field, enough to build anything in this game, and then some. We are seeing a little bit more pushback here from Team 1's Pavor. Just has so many spam facilities online. He's getting up his T2 sub-killers right now, his Barracudas. Just look at all the dead facilities, all the dead boats, all the everything. Team 2 has, again, 3 players left. Team 1 has 4 players left. The Team 1 still has advantage, but in Navy, you don't need you still need a lot of APM. You need APM for everything. But at least, given the fact that Navy's a little bit slower, you need a little bit less than you do for everything else. And of course, Neptune's being just focused down by Team 2's fleet. Yeah, those Neptunes, the only downside with them is that they have shorter range than the battleships. So they have better DPS, but you got to get them close. And if there's just a ton of stuff you're shooting at, sending in a Neptune or two is probably not the best idea. You really need just an entire horde of them to really make that worth it. It looks like this is giving a little bit more renewed vigor here for Team 2 to constantly push in. T3 facility is back online. They're producing summits. No, sorry. They are producing... No, they are producing summits. Okay, I look like a Neptune for a second. They're producing them very quickly, to be fair. Lots of drones working on construction sites. And the facilities are back online, but Team 2 never lost theirs, at least the ones in the south. Multiple T3 naval headquarters are online. 1A on 2 UEF, 1 from Trith, 2 from Delhi. Delhi sitting at 600 mass, Trith at 400, and Paralon at 400. Team 1 overall sitting at 1.7 with Pavor at 600, and then Foley at 400, and then Rayla and everybody else, Trimmer, being under that. And the main fleets are being controlled by both Drimmer and Foley. Actually, no, scratch that. Sorry, it's Foley and no, it's Foley. I don't see a lot of purple, just a couple of hover. Yeah, Foley and Drimmer. Yeah, Foley and Drimmer was right the first time. Pavor's forces are down here. They're also being routed. I think Team 2 is kind of done dealing with the nonsense down here, so they're just ripping apart everything with Cormorants. There is a lot of AA in the mix, even though they're Team 1 frigates. They have something on board. So, again, the whole war of attrition. How many forces do you need to bring to actually deal the death blow, that sort of thing. Exodus getting in the mixer. Not really that healthy. T3 naval headquarters is the main target once again. The benefit is with a structure with missiles is that the structure doesn't move. So if you have those governor class cruisers from UEF or the equivalent for the Seraphim, that's not going anywhere, and that facility is now offline once again. Team 1 loses access to T3 naval technology in the form of Drimmer. We do see still T3 online for Foley, but this is again more and more mass you have to reinvest to build the facility to get the units again. So it just takes a lot of APM, takes a lot of time to get that back up. And there is a nuke online here for Team 2 outbound from Paragon. And we do see a defense satellite online for Team 1's Drimmer. We do see a donut was built. I don't know if that was Team 2's, but it's dead now. I'm assuming maybe? If Team 2 built another one, then I would assume maybe, but maybe Team 1 built that. No, I don't know why Team 1 would build that. They don't have air control. Team 2 does. But there are a lot of dead ASF, so it looks like there was some engagement at some point. But I did see, to be fair, some of Rayla's forces coming in behind that donut, so probably it was made by Team 2. Another Tempest is online under the control of Rayla, and again, battleships and battlecruisers just firing non-stop at one another. Counter-satellite online here for Team 2's Paralon. There's one loading the nuke as we speak. 3/4 the way loaded. Satellite over the top going after the T3 naval headquarters for Trith. Needs to get some bulwarks to protect against that. That Tempest has been transferred over to Foley. 46 minutes on the clock. And that fleet has been severely diminished by Team 1. The outbound fleet... okay, well, I guess there's more of them, but there's a lot of dead boats. So many dead boats. How much is the mass overall? Oh, that's not... Nope. There we go. I have to push the right button. There we go. 300,000 mass more. Team 1's player of somebody control Ks. Looks like fully control Ks. He does see the writing on the wall at this point. His facilities are gone. T3 Pavor is under his control now, and it's everything looking good here. Team 1 is back to the new quarter. They have a lot of firepower, but there's just so many reinforcements now outbound from Paralon from the north, and in the east, I should say, and of course, just the absolute monstrosity that is all of these battleships. Looks like they finally dealt with most of the threat from Team 1 in the south, and they've diverted all of their attention solely on this, which is just so much. Look at all the dead stuff. Look at all the dead stuff. Look at it. Look at all that stuff. It's all just nonsense is what it is. Team 1 has 3 players remaining. We do see that the air grid here, small air grid, but still air grid for Pavor, is being lasered by Paralon. And the last of the T3 naval headquarters facilities in the north looks like it's going to be wiped out here pretty shortly. And all of the firepower from Team 2 is pretty much focusing on the units exclusively. And now they're starting to chip away at all those structures. I thought that was a Paragon for a second. Scratch that. That is a Paragon right there. I thought it was that, but it is that. They are building a Paragon. Team 1, it's not shielded. Team 2 knows about it, and that Paragon is going to be targeted. And there goes the shield. Another shield is going to be built, but I don't think Team 1 will get that Paragon online, or that Tempest for that matter at this point. All those frigates are moving in to, again, just act as cannon fodder, while the main force of battleships down here raining down fire. That Tempest is now offline. Team 1 really doesn't have a lot left in the tank. Team 2 just has so much being output. And there are SACUs running around the map, not even equipped with the RAS upgrades. Pavor is defeated by Paralon due to just the everything over here. And there is a desync that does happen, but obviously at this point in the game you can tell which direction it's going. Everything in the south has been destroyed, and it's just Grimmer and Rayla remaining. And at this point I'm going to speed this game a little bit up. There is a missile ship online. The Torrent does make an appearance in the game. We do see that Nuke is outbound, and it's going to just seal the deal here for Team 2. 48 minutes on the clock, almost 49 minutes. The first nuke of the game has been launched. There's no SMD. Well, excuse me, there is an SMD. It'd be really funny if it does get shot down, which it does get shot down, considering that there are just battleships right there not targeting that SMD. But again, like I said, at this stage, the game is pretty much over. Well played, team, says Trith. And that artillery focusing on Drimmer's calm alone. Rayla back here in a little bit of isolated water on the map. On their side, facilities are going offline. There's no hope. And Drimmer is dancing the best he can. Dance. Dance, my friend. Do the best you can to outlast all that artillery. There's a lot of AoE. I know you're going to eventually die, but just live longer. As, you know, even if it's by a couple seconds, it's better than nothing. We do see that Drimmer is in the red. He's fallen very quickly. Gets a rank in veterancy, but it does not matter. Team 1's last remaining player is Rayla. Essentially everything on that side of the map is gone. And 50 minutes on the clock here. Team 2's Delhi control case just because of a connection and all that. But again, Team 2 wins the game at 50 minutes and 0.5 seconds. That is a palindrome. So you can write it 5005 or 5005. And honestly, I am leaning between one of two players here for MVP for Team 2. Obviously, Trith had triple base, pumped out so many T2 Torp bombers. It was insane. Did a great job of assisting his teammates, both in the north and in the south, by saying, hey, I'm going to spend all of my eco building all of these units, and then you guys will control them, and then I'll just build more of them, and then you get more of them. He focused mainly on air, and it's better that he does that, so that way he can do his realm of air, and then both of these other players can do the Navy. Team 2 did suffer the death of Egg Roll eventually, and that's why, I mean, the Billy Nuke was nice, but it wasn't that impactful. Delhi did a really good job in punching through the southern defenses here, cutting off reinforcements here from Pavor, or Toka, then Pavor, And then after that, moving northward, assisting with the final push to deal with the last holdouts here from Team 1, that being Drimmer and Pavor a little bit as well, and Foley. But it's Trith or it's Delhi. One of the two did a very, very good job. I kind of want to say Trith because I think his focus on eco and not trying to play a huge role in Navy by just giving everything over that he had pretty much right after he built it is what really set up Team 2 for success long term. And then, of course, Delhi came in. Same with Pavor, moved in for the final kill, and then that was it. So let me know down in the comments if you agree with that pick for Trith being the MVP of the game. Thank you so very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so very much for watching to the end of the video, and I will see all of you in the next one.